Making a garden bench out of styrofoam and a little bit of concrete, a little bit of steel, a little bit of paint, you can make something that looks fantastic for not very much money, and it's pretty easy to do. Check it out. Let's talk about concrete mixes, or in this particular case, mortar mixes, because that's what I'm going to make here is a mortar mix. It just means the same thing, but one has gravel, the other doesn't. I want fine detail. Rocks would make it very hard to make, a nice finished detail on this, and that's why we're going to go with mortar. The ratio that I'm going to go with, 2 parts sand to 1 part Portland cement. Both of those, you could go in depth on what they are, but just type 10 general use Portland cement is what's being used, as well as sharp graded sterilized brick sand, which is to say like a masonry application sand, to which I'm going to add only water but one other ingredient, a PVA or modified PVA, polyvinyl acetate, essentially glue. I'm going to add some white glue to this mix, maybe up to and including 10% of the liquid contents, which is going to be somewhere in the range of 4 liters / like 1 gallon kind of thing. So remove 10% water, replace 10% with PVA. Weld Bond brand, there's lots of brands out there. You could just use glue. Makes the mix stronger, it makes it more resistant to water permeation, but it also makes it stickier on the trowel, and I get a nicer finish when I'm climbing a vertical surface like this. Enough talking, let's start mixing. Okay, so I've mixed the mud together, I've got a pretty good consistency. I'll bring that over later. Let's talk about what we're going to do with it. We're going to apply it on. All you got to do is cover the steel. If you have too much thickness, it'll fall off. So just, cover the steel plus a little bit. That's pretty much all you're going to go for here. Half inch most would be lots, like 3/8 kind of is the ideal range. Once you apply it, and let's talk about what you apply it with. Point trowel or margin trowel. You could use a larger trowel, and the larger your piece, the larger of a trowel you can use. It's kind of up to you. I like to use a margin trowel when I'm applying it, and then kind of on the first pass, and then, second or third pass, I switch to a point trowel. It's just kind of what I got used to. There's no wrong way to do it. If you're doing something, it feels comfortable to you, just go ahead and do it that way. When you apply the mud, just get it on. Just get it all on there. Go all the way around, building from the bottom up. Usually don't trowel down. Try to just have a tendency or a habit to trowel upwards. That will help you overall to stop it from falling off. I have an additional challenge here, which is I can't get to the back side of this thing. For something like this, I might normally do it on a table out in the open or on the floor, even if it's big enough, something like that. I'm going to have to take this thing at some point and physically turn it on the table here, and that's going to suck for me. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a big disaster. I'm kind of just banking on the fact I'm going to be able to take care of it. We'll see. So when we get the mud on, ideally what you want to have is everything you need in terms of the mortar to do the whole thing. You kind of don't want to run out 10% short. It's a real pain in the butt because now you're scrambling because the stuff that's on there is starting to set up. You got stuff that you're supposed to be doing. Now you got to mix some more mud. Plus now you're dealing with mud of 2 different consistencies. One is kind of setting up, ready to accept texture, stuff like that. The other one is glossy, still a lot of water raised to the surface. So in an ideal world, you start the project with everything you need. This is big enough that it's going to take me a while to put it all up. I don't even want all of the stuff that I'm going to need. I might have it, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to need to mix a little bit more, and I'm okay with that because I'm going to do all the sides. I'm hoping I have enough to do all the sides, and then when I get to the top, it's going to be a while later. So then I wouldn't mind having some fresh stuff to work with, put the top on. I don't mind, waiting longer for the top to set up for me to do whatever I'm going to do in terms of texture or finishing detail, I don't mind waiting. I'll do all the sides as kind of like part A and the top as part B. That's kind of my plan here. And it really comes down to how fast you are with this. Let's talk texture. So once we've got it on, we kind of trial it smooth. You're not going for 100% smooth, which is good because that would be hard to do. You're going for kind of smooth, which is good because that's very attainable. We're going to get it pretty kind of smooth all the way around, and then we're going to add some texture to it to make it look like real stone. And that texture can be done a couple of different ways. The way that I'm going to do it, let's just start there. This is a texture skin, polyurethane, like a pourable rubber texture skin poured over granite. And then the texture of the granite is, you end up with this little urethane mat. We're going to kind of do some 3D sculpting with it. It's really easy to do. You can buy these online, and if you're going to do a lot of the stuff, for sure get one because they're super helpful. Get a bunch of different ones because they come in all different textures. It's a lot of fun. You could waste a lot of time and money on it. For doing this, all you need is kind of one little tiny thing, and we can work with that. And let's say you don't have one because you probably don't. You can do a very good or realistic recreation of the same thing that we're going to do using a sea sponge. A sea sponge is available at every hardware store. I don't know, a couple of dollars. Go pick one up, or I think they come in like packages of like a handful. And those will allow you to do the same thing. Just kind of like take a sea sponge and blot it into your wet concrete and then rotate it so you're not repeating the pattern and blot it in. And you can absolutely make a very realistic rock texture doing something like that. I just like the texture mats. It's better, more reliable, gives a better quality finish. But until you get some of your own, just get some sea sponges and you can get started doing something like this immediately. And while I'm talking here the whole time, the concrete is setting up in the bucket there. I should probably go and get it. A little bit on the dry side, but I mean, it's still really good. So what you want to see is kind of, it comes off cleanly together. And when you first mix it, you kind of have like a window of opportunity where it's in its best state for applying. It's just more workable than when it's a little bit later. And so I'm just going to jump right in, get started here because there's a lot of it. Let's get going. It's most of the way around. I've got a little bit left in the bucket here. Definitely not enough. So that's actually great. That's exactly where I want it to be. Get the outside done. It's 50% done. Needs another pass or two, but for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what's left in the bucket, just waste it on top here, press it in, quickly go waz up a little bit more so that I have what I need to finish, and then I can do a couple more passes here and clean this up a little bit. Here we've got more than we need to finish for sure. I'm just going to throw a bunch on the top. I'm aiming for an inch thick with all this steel. I think is going to be amazing. Now what I need to do I've got this up top, but this is fresh, so I can leave that for a while now. These sides are, I mean, they're stiffening up pretty good. You don't want to use water and try to wet up the concrete, but you can use just a little bit of water to aid in the slickness of the trowel here in the finishing. A sponge is a great way to, you're kind of troweling something here and it's kind of dry. You can marry edges really easily. My sponge was a little wet there, actually. Same thing, a little bit drier. You saw how much water that added? A little too much water. We'll trowel it in, nobody will even notice. Okay, so moving on. I'm going to try to do another full pass here, and I'm not going for perfect. I'm just trying to get it 50% better than it is now. Let's go. I lost you there because the SD card was full. My battery's almost dead. I had to get another SD card. I'm way behind now. Oh boy. Cherry bomb release agent. Sea sponge, or what's left of one. Take the sea sponge and just kind of soften some of the imperfections and trowel lines. I did want to talk to you just a little bit about some of the stuff that we did there. So first of all, the top. You saw me use a sponge float, and then I used the steel trowel to get, a pretty smooth. I could have got more smooth, but it's pretty smooth. I'm pretty happy with that. Two options there. One, I could have left it at the sponge float, that really rough, sandy texture, or you could do the steel trowel finish like you see here. In the finished product, both are actually really good. There's advantages and disadvantages to each. The disadvantage here with the smooth top, it accepts paint differently than the heavily textured parts. And so when I'm trying to paint it and I want it to look uniform, sometimes it doesn't look uniform. Or sometimes that smooth finish, it doesn't absorb water as readily as the rough finish, and as a result it doesn't absorb the paint colors that I'm using. So it's something that can wear away quickly. Like on the vertical stuff, it all will last forever, but this thing will wear clean no matter what I paint it with. Go back a couple years later and it's just bare cement now. Which is okay too. They all look good, they really do. And if you do leave it sandy like that, all you do, let it dry and cure, take a scraper, like a metal scraper, and just do a light scrape and take down some of the, high points of the sandiness. But we don't have that problem. We have something that's almost too slick, and we'll do a light sanding, something like 220 grit sandpaper or higher, 400 even. Depends on how smooth it is. But I wasn't going for crazy smooth, just wanted it to be pretty smooth, comfortable to sit on. This is a bench, after all. Here it's hard to do this wrong, it really is. In terms of the texture, I had to put on the mask and get to work, and I was behind the whole time there, working my butt off. But I didn't have time to talk about what I was doing, but I was giving a light spray with a release agent. I was using my urethane texture mats and just imprinting some texture. And go ahead and be heavy-handed at times. You don't have to just be light. Right now it looks kind of dramatic because of the lighting. When you come back at a future point when this is dry and it looks different, that's my point. It will look different. It'll look way less dramatic because it's all kind of white, and you'll lose all of that detail and texture. You won't be able to see that anymore until we get to the painting stage. That's why we're putting it in there. Anyway, so for now, basically that's it. Just have to let it set up. There's going to be about 48 hours from now, I need to do a step. I'm going to need to break it free from the base, and I do a little bit of sanding around the bottom edge, just kind of some rough shaping with it. Takes just a few minutes, and then we're done for a month. We take it, we put it in storage someplace, let it sit, and let it fully cure for a month before we paint it. That's how we get the best quality paint jobs with it. So that's going to be the process that we go with from here. I hope you like it. I like it. I think it looks great.